Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Coach Scott. I'll be your host today. Guys, I got a great show for you today. Another great show, another guest, potentially two guests coming on. I'm pre-recording this, so I don't really know if one of them are going to show up or both of them are going to show up. I hope both of them show up, though. It'll make the show even that much better. As always, you can find this in the back episodes of our podcast at our website, ordinarymarathoner.com. You can also find them at the aggregators, places like Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. Any place that you want to listen to a podcast, we're very likely there. So check that out. Look us up, Ordinary Marathoner Podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button underneath. Really helps out the channel. It's really not too much of an issue for you guys. You might get some notices from time to time, but it doesn't, I'm telling you, it won't bother you, and it really helps us out a lot. So I really appreciate those of you who have subscribed to the YouTube channel. What else we got? Our Ordinary Marathon, 2021 Ordinary Marathon, our charity virtual race is open for business and registration is open. You can go to ordinarymarathon.com and get registered. We're going to be giving away, I've been saying this for like a couple weeks now, I feel like, but we're going to be giving away 2 tumbler glasses from June Walker, from Grandma Junie Has a Potty Mouth. That's the name of her business, but she does a great job making us tumbler glasses and some other things for our virtual race for charity. She does an awesome job. And, she lives out in Oregon where the forest fire has been a really big problem for them lately. And I know she's had to evacuate a couple times. And, man, it's a little frightening. But as soon as we kind of get that under control, we'll be giving those away. And you're going to be happy if you win them. And you can only win them if you're involved in the Ordinary Marathon. $10, ordinarymarathon.com. Teamordinary.com. You can check out our team site. We got about 80 members of the team going strong. Go on over, register for the team. You get yourself a nice shirt like that, getting yourself a nice hat. I'm not wearing the hat today. Some people give me stuff, give me a little, give me a little guff for not wearing the hat. They think it's weird because I wear it most of the time. There's weird to see me with the hair. But look, man, I'm 46. I'm kind of proud of this. Look, I'm not, it's not really, I got maybe a little gap right there and a little gray, but I'm hanging in there, man. I'm hanging in there, 46. Not a bad mane for 46 years old. I'm pretty proud. I'm going to let it ride today. But go to teamordinary.com. Check that out. We changed the website a little bit. We got some more changes coming up in the near future. If you're interested in coaching, consultations are free. A lot of coaches will charge you for that consultation, that initial consultation. But if you have questions, if you don't know the coaching is right for you, if you're, just thinking about it and you have some goals in mind and you want a little bit of help to try to get there, reach out to me, send me an email, coachscott@teamordinary.com. We'll get you set up with a free consultation and we'll have a little chat and we'll see if coaching is right for you. It's been awesome for me. I love my athletes. I love coaching them. I love seeing them through to success. I got one out there right now, actually running a half marathon as we speak, and I'm nervous. I'm like an expectant father. Been walking around the house like just can't wait to hear from her. Come on, call. But I should probably finish actually now in the middle of the show, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Anyway. All right, with that, let me introduce today's guests. I got them both in today. I wasn't sure if I was going to get one or the other or both, but we were able to wrangle them both into the studio. We got them both on the Zoom call. Travis and Mark Macy, welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Great to be here with you and the audience.
It's awesome to have you guys. And just so that the listeners know, Travis is the guy with the Colorado hat. And his dad is Mark. If you didn't watch the show, you wouldn't know. So I want to make sure that our listeners know. So both Travis and Mark were key players, key participants in some of the storylines on the World's Toughest Race, which was just recently on Amazon Prime. Still on Amazon Prime, by the way. It's 9 episodes. It's an incredible series. Me and my wife watched it. I think we binge watched it in 3 days. We loved it. I got to tell you guys, my wife loved your storyline the most out of everyone. We had, and I don't mean to say, we had James Lawrence on the program, Iron Cowboy, a couple weeks ago. So I don't mean to. I actually liked his story. My wife was just absolutely in love with you guys and your story. And instead of me telling it here on the podcast, why don't I just throw it over to you guys and give us like a general outline of what made that story so special and why it would, touch someone like me and my wife in a way that we would remember.
Well, I think the story that they told on the World's Toughest Race about our team is just sort of a story of family, and that's, I would guess, maybe why it relates to your wife or other people out there. I think they did a good job of authentically portraying the story, but it's a story about family members and friends. Of course, the rest of our team, that was Shane and Danelle and Andrew, and then the greater team. You saw the stray dogs out there, and those guys were very much part of our team as well. Insofar as Marshall lives in Evergreen, very close to Dad, and they do a whole lot of training and stuff together. And Bob Haw flew out from Kentucky a number of times in the summer prior to the race, so we were doing training with him and doing the rope certification and Swiftwater certification. And Marshall's wife Heather, who was their crew person and is very much a member of our just sort of family and friend team around town overall. So I think that's why people, maybe relate to it. And I think they maybe see people digging deep to support their family and friends. And, our story where we did that in one race happened to make it on TV. But I think it's important to remember that's a story that plays out all over the place all the time. And it's don't discount what you're doing yourself to dig deep for your own family and friends, because it still counts and it makes a big difference, regardless of if it's on TV or not. And, and I hope maybe some of the takeaways or lessons, whether those are, sort of tangible or just the spirit of it, I hope that's helpful to people here in this global pandemic, generally, where we're all dealing with a lot more uncertainty than maybe we would like. And then also specifically for people maybe who are dealing with Alzheimer's or something else going on, where you got a big challenge ahead and you really need to work as a team to make the most of it.
Yeah. Mark, do you have anything to add to that? Or you think you got it all?
No, shoot. I got Alzheimer's. I assume you know that. And every now and then.
We can help you. Okay. I mean,
no worries, Dad.
The father-son relationship, I think, for me, just watching you guys work together, seemed just so special between the two of you. And Mark, your background in this sport, it seemed like, the background that you've had in, years, you've been doing this for a long time with the stray dogs. And for me, even just the beginning part, to watch the two of you to watch Mark kind of leave his team to race with his son. How did that, and either one of you guys can answer, how did that decision come about? Where you guys knew that, that you guys wanted to do this. Travis, like your team was, you guys are competitive. You guys were, a top team, and, for you to make that decision, you're potentially taking yourself out of like competing for a top spot, I would think, but this is a little bit more than that. So how do you guys, how did that all happen where you decided that you were going to take on this race together as father-son?
Well, initially I was going to race with my stray dog team, Marshall, Ulrich, and Bob and Adrian Crane. And so I talked to Marshall and those guys and let them know that, I was going to race with Trav, and they were all for it. They were happy to get rid of me, but they were happy that Travis and I were going to race together, and it just seemed like such a natural thing for us to do. We've been hanging around, since Travis was a little kid, talking about Eco Challenge and stuff, and he's probably watched all of the races on TV, and over and over and over again, and it just was a natural thing for us to do, and I'm glad we did it, and it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, I think it was a good choice as well. And, the further I've gone, into different kinds of racing, whether that's running or adventure racing or mountain biking or ski mountaineering or whatever, I've realized more and more that some things are more important than competition. And even when, there's money on the line, like there was for a big race like this, and one of those things is family. And I think that's definitely something that I learned from the example that Dad set while I was growing up of just prioritizing family and family time and the relationships. And I have plenty of chances left to do races competitively if I want to, or or not. I enjoyed the more casual and team focused approach, and also hopefully if there's a message there that can help or inspire people, that's a great benefit as well.
Yeah, I think you guys were certainly inspirational. Even just watching the race, I got to say in the beginning, and watching you guys take off and the way they were kind of portraying this, I had a little bit of concern that you wouldn't do so well, or that you'd be out kind of early. And man, Mark, I tell you, you proved me wrong real early. Like, I was like, watch this guy go. He just kept going and going. There was like no quit in you. How did you go in when you went into the race? Were you guys, were you expecting to finish? Were you just seeing how far you could go? What was the mindset of the team? Or were you just kind of just embracing the moment?
For me, I expected us to finish, or that was our intention. I've never gone into a race to do anything else other than at least finish. And, I didn't expect we would win it. But, when I saw that picture that in the movie that had that old white hair guy in there, and I looked at that and I could not believe that was me. I never had, I'm not a guy who looks in the mirror very much anyway, but man, I couldn't believe that was me. And
I got some of that coming in too. I don't know. It's coming. But I thought you did an amazing job. And there was that, like, I've seen that attitude in Ironman races and in marathons, where that no quit attitude. At some point though, Travis, did you feel like, there was like a health concern there? And you guys made it pretty darn far.
Yeah, well, I guess as far as the no quit attitude, that was one of the things I wrote about in my book, The Ultra Mindset. One of the principles was called "Never Quit Except When It's Time to Quit." Which is the no quit attitude. Absolutely, if you want to do and finish, these races like ultra runs, adventure races, you very much need to embrace I will suffer through it. And it's much less of a mindset of I'm going to go out and have the perfect race and I hope things go real smooth and I hope I don't suffer, because you're going to. And it's much more of, okay, there are going to be challenges. Some of them I can't anticipate, whether it's feed and legs and stomach and sleep deprivation, getting lost out in the jungle, that kind of stuff. And some of them you don't know. And for us in this race, with Alzheimer's kind of along as the teammate, we didn't know what the challenges were. We had some guesses, but there was a whole lot of uncertainty for sure. And that made it a very, dynamic and intellectual challenge for all of us, to work together as a team and to, manage things. And we realized sleep was a big piece of that for our team, to make things consistent and to have that rhythm during the day. A couple times at night, Dad did start to experience some disorientation, and we realized, well, we need to keep talking and just conversing and staying engaged through conversation. And we also need to sleep, and we need to sleep, a good chunk of the night, like 5, 6, 7 hours every night in a warm, dry place, not just laying there in the mud. And, I'm sure that we were leading the league in sleep, but we were doing it sustainably. We had kind of figured out, and I think hopefully maybe some teams will learn this, especially those back of the pack teams. You think, oh, I'm going to stop and sleep for 5 hours and I'm losing 5 hours. Well, you're not losing 5 hours, because the next day I can guarantee you are going to go so much faster, just because you're not making mistakes and you can think straight and you're not getting lost and you can manage your gear and put your bike together, because you can think. And so that was a big piece of it. for us, for sure.
Yeah, you talked about certifications, and that was something that came up with Iron Cowboy too in the conversation. Um, how vigorous is that certification process? What do they tell you to do beforehand? What do they tell you to get ready for? What do they make? What levels do you need to reach in order that the show is comfortable, making sure that you're going to be safe on the race?
There is a lot to that, and that the preparation for one of these races, there's the physical piece, which at minimum you got to be spending a lot of time on your feet, a lot of time on the bike, and quite a bit of time paddling. In addition to the specific skills like fixed ropes and navigation and managing all the gear. And then the gear itself, I mean, the month before the race, I mean, it is just everyone's house is a complete yard sale, and you got all this stuff all over the place, and you're checking things off the gear list over and over. And, it's a lot of logistics, and you have to, at least some degree, you have to kind of enjoy that kind of stuff, to make it through. But the certifications are another piece of that. So I think for this race, there's a basic medical certificate that would be, signed off by a doctor during a physical or something. There's the fixed ropes, which the basic skills to that would be ascending a fixed rope, descending, using rappelling, horizontal traverses of fixed ropes, passing anchors, and then Tyrolean traverse, and then just managing all the gear to do that. There was a Swiftwater certification. So, whitewater rescue, whitewater swimming, receiving a whitewater rescue, steering a raft, those kind of things. There was a navigation certification that at least two people had to be signed off on. And then there was a jungle skills. I can't remember if that was wrapped into the navigation one or not. And then there was also medical training. I think 2 members of the team had to have at least wilderness first aid.
Wow. That's a lot of preparing.
I think that's, yeah. Oh, it's a lot of, it's a big time commitment for everyone, for sure. Like they're hoping to do an Eco Challenge in 2021 in Patagonia, and that'll have prospectively some glacial travel. So that'll probably be,
Wow.
Kind of another sign off where either, some of these, sometimes people on the team, like, Shane, who's on our team, he's a whitewater guide, he's like a guy who certifies people. So, maybe you can sign off yourself or your teammates if you've done that together, or maybe someone on your team is a mountain climbing guide, and they can take the rest of the team out and, let's rope up together and practice short roping and what do we do, to navigate crevasses and that kind of stuff. Or you hire someone, a company to do it. Like we hired, a rock climbing guide service to go out with us for a day and go through the skills and all that.
Right. I mean, this has been in your family though for quite some time, right? You guys have been doing this for a long time. This is nothing. It's not like it's new for you guys.
I've actually done them all, or I missed. No, I did take that back. I did. I've done 8 of 9 or 9 of 10 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I have been around the block a bunch, and as far as people being capable of doing the races, they won't let anybody in the race who's not capable of doing it and having been tested and everything else. I mean, it's pretty safe, even though there is some danger at some points, but generally you don't have to worry about too much.
Yeah. Now, what would you say when it comes to the difference between sort of the actual experience itself being out there, and what the TV portrays? Now, I asked a similar question to James, and he talked about the Billy boats that he was on it for like 12 hours and doing. I mean, I thought that was a good answer, in that you don't get a full appreciation for how long you guys actually do these little, it makes it look like you're on the boats for like 20 minutes and then you're done, but it's out. I mean, what would you say? Was there anything else that comes to mind that doesn't come across TV? I mean, you mentioned sleep. I think that's probably one of them too. Was there anything else that comes to mind as something that that when you watch the TV show, you're like, it wasn't really like that. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think they did a great job with the production and portraying it realistically. And that's been another question people have asked, how much of this is staged or scripted or those kind of things. And my answer is none of it. I think that's what's cool about this show. It is a real race, a legitimate race that you see. There's the best teams in the world, and it's still taking them 5 or 6 days, which means it's a very hard, challenging course. But it's also, it's accessible enough that some of the back of the pack teams can make it through in 9, 10, or 11 days. And that's a challenge as for the person who creates the course, because the top teams are so much better and so much more experienced and so much more efficient with everything. So yeah, I mean, nothing staged. They have so many cameras and so many microphones out there that they just get so much content that they don't have to recreate, stories or drama, which I think is kind of cool. I do think you're right that one thing they don't show is just there's a lot of time out there where, it's not super exciting. Like you're just trekking along, you're on the Billy for 14 hours or you're paddling those thamacows that we started with, the ancient Fijian outriggers with sails. And they told us before the race, the local guys, they're like, it's always windy. You'll be sailing, you'll be cruising along. And we're going, oh shit, how the hell do you sail this thing? Hopefully Shane knows how to do it. And thankfully he did. But lo and behold, there's no wind, as you saw in the show. So you're paddling this thing. It's a big, heavy boat. And I mean, it's just slow. So you don't quite get that sense of like most of the day, you're just out there for 12 hours straight in the ocean. And, when you got to pee, you stand up and pee off the side. And when you got to go number 2, like you either go off the side or you wait till you get to the next island or, whatever. And you're doing all these things with your you're standing there peeing and your teammates are 6 inches away. Like it's just, it's just
now,
what
there's a great answer to the question, right? That's
obviously they don't show that. But you do, I mean, it's just, I mean, Nathan Fave kind of talked about this in one of the episodes, it's just a raw kind of primal thing to do. And it's just people being humans and getting back to nature and moving and navigating. And you're I sort of get this feeling when I do these races after like 3 or 4 days, it's like I've gone totally feral and I'm just comfortable with it. Like I don't care anymore, oh God, my fingernails are totally full of grit or, whatever. Like it starts to feel natural and you just kind of move along. And sometimes some of those hours are very slow because something's hurting or you're feeling sick or you can't stay awake. And some of them go fast and you're like, holy cow, we just spent 18 hours trekking and, it just kind of flew by.
Now, do they have a cameraman follow you guys the whole entire time, or were there moments where the team was just by yourself?
A little bit of both. They did, prior to the race, I think they just, determined here's, I don't know, maybe a third of the teams that for the trekking sections we're going to put a cameraman with. So we had a guy named Johan from Germany who he became a teammate, you're trekking along and he's not helping us or giving us food or, telling us where to go or anything, but, he's got to keep up and film and ask questions. And, we learn about him and his family and he just becomes sort of part of the team. So for the trekking, it's a little easier to have someone walk with you. And that's a bit harder with the top teams because then they have to get a cameraman who truly can keep up, and you get like the,
oh, wow.
footage where I think it was the Estonian team is crossing that flooded canyon, and the camera guy was with him. And I mean, those, like, he's part of the team, they can't leave, whatever they do, they are doing it together. Somehow he filmed that river crossing, but he was connected to those people, he didn't cross that river by himself. I can guarantee that. So, yeah, there are camera people with you at times. And then there's also, they have drones and helicopters, and you get to, some of the, at the big camps, there were 4 of those along the way. And at those, they actually, would have full camera crews for doing some, brief 10-minute interviews and that kind of stuff.
Right. I tell you, go ahead.
To answer your question, I mean, you can't possibly film all of the actual time that we spend in jungles and all over the place and riding bikes, back in the middle of nowhere. And, you get to see some of the bike riding, but you don't get to see all the bike riding, and you don't even get to see most of it probably. And the same thing is true with everything else that's shown. They can't film it all. It just is impossible. They get most of it, but man, there's stuff in there you just can't even believe how long you've been in the jungle with your bike, and it's full of crap, and you can't get any of it out of your gears or anything. You gotta. There was one point where I'll bet I got up and got off my bike probably 20 times. Just get up, fall off, get up, fall off, right on my face. Boom, 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 boom. Just because the mud is so gooey, there's nothing you can do except grin and bear it.
It didn't look like there was a lot of bike riding out there at all, actually. You mentioned that, and it's like, I think there was probably more footage of people walking their bikes than there was people riding them. It was almost like, well, why did they even give you bikes? Like, you could have just probably would have walked faster through a lot of that. And I think, unfortunately, I think the rain just came at the wrong time. It just seemed like it came right in the beginning and muddied up a lot of those courses. And I don't know if some of the more, the people in the front, I don't know if they beat that rain to a certain degree. In the very least, they didn't do you guys any favor. The people in front of you did you no favor, like kicking up dirt, ahead of you and making it like it did not look like an enjoyable bike ride. That's for sure.
I raced in Fiji 20 years ago, and it was exactly the same. We sat in the mud and froze, and, people were hypothermic, and, we knew exactly what was going to happen, and sure enough, it did.
Yeah, man, it looked miserable. I felt bad for you guys, but you guys still, you just keep going and going. And it's like, Energizer Bunny, you just keep moving forward. We had someone come on the podcast a few weeks ago, said, hey, forward is a pace. Moving forward is a pace. It doesn't matter how fast you're going or what, but you just keep going, and eventually you're going to get there. So you guys were like, yeah, you guys were incredible. And Travis, you mentioned that story.
And you might speed up again too. I mean, that's sometimes you think, whether you're in the marathon or the ultra or the 10K or whatever, you go through a low patch and you think, oh my God, if I feel this bad now, 5 miles later, I'm going to feel worse. And it turns out that's not always true. Yeah. Whether it's in running or adventure racing or life in general, you can go through a low patch and then come back and you're moving again. And that's something, especially in sports like adventure racing, everyone has ups and downs. The team has ups and downs. You have times where you feel terrible and you need help from your teammates, and you have times where you can help them as well.
Yeah, I think some of the examples of teamwork out there were just even, with you guys and other teams too. It was just incredible. And I think, for those of us people who might be listening to the podcast who, maybe you've done a marathon or maybe you've done a triathlon or something. It's almost like, I mean, comparing that to what you guys did, I mean, you guys were out there for days and days and days. I mean, and so for you to say like, hey, you take take a little break, or you might feel miserable, and then a little while later you could feel good again. It's incredible. Yeah. And it's incredible, I think, what you learn about yourself, what you learn about dedication, and just keep on going. It's amazing. But Travis, you did mention before that story about the Estonians in that canyon and that's exactly what I was thinking. I want to just go back there real quick because I was watching, and they were hanging on to each other, like crossing through the rapids. And all I could think of was, there's a camera guy filming this.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how he did it. I don't know if he had a GoPro on his head or something, because maybe it was a head, or he got it to stick on his shoulder. I don't know how he did it either.
But I was just like, these guys are like, they're holding on for dear life. And the guy filming them not only is he by himself, he's got a camera.
Yeah. No, he must have been holding on to them because no one in their right mind would cross that river alone, or could, clear like that. That's actually another thing they told us actually before the race. They said, practice crossing rivers with fast, cold water that may be relatively high, and practice doing it with your bikes. And there are, in the weird world of extreme outdoor stuff, there's techniques for crossing rivers, whereby different ways to link up. Who do you put upstream? Who do you put downstream? How do you get the bikes across? Is each person carrying it? Do you ferry them, or just chuck it across and hope it makes it? So that's, those are actually skills that we worked on some. And even when we did our Swiftwater training, the guide was helpful, and we worked on some of that stuff.
All the years that I was doing adventure racing, there were always times when I was in a river halfway across the river, thinking, oh shit, we got to get out of this. And it's very difficult at times. And everybody who's in the races knows how to cross the river, or should better, but still you can't control something like a river, and especially a cold river. And it's, just something everybody has to put up with and make sure that everybody on the team is together and knows what's going on and where each person is going to go and so forth.
So, I mean, Mark, you've been doing this for quite some time. Travis, less so, but you've been watching your dad for years. Is there so you talk about all these certifications and all these things that you go through to prepare you for the actual race. What was the one thing that either they didn't prepare you for or just came up? Is there one thing that you could think of that just happened when you were out there that was either something you didn't prepare for, or, something that was unexpected?
For us, really nothing on the course, I don't think, surprised us very much, just based on our, experience. And we've done similar things a lot. I will say one, again, back to the Alzheimer's, there was just a lot of uncertainty. And a few of the nights, the second night, for example, Dad got really disoriented and kind of didn't quite know where he was or what was going on. And he, I know he's okay with, sharing the story, which in hindsight is kind of humorous. He, for some period of time, he thought that Danelle and I had this illegal scheme going on whereby we were selling sleeping spots for this school room in this village where we were sleeping. We stopped there to sleep overnight, and then some other teams started coming in, and pretty soon we got all these people packed in this little kindergarten classroom or whatever. But and Dad remembers that clearly, and that for us was a moment of, wow, hopefully going to sleep tonight will make this go away. And if it doesn't, we're probably done. But the sleep fixed it, and Dad woke up the next day, and he's totally back and in the race, and he just got on the mountain bike and started hammering away.
Which is kind of, I mean, you think about it, and obviously you guys had to sort of like plan for what might come up, like a situation like that might arise from the Alzheimer's. Now, combining the Alzheimer's with such vigorous physical activity, I mean, do you think that's sort of what brings on an episode like that? Or were you prepared for, hey, this may go anywhere at any moment, and, we may either have to pull the plug, or we may have to, I mean, was there concern?
I think, as far as like, where did the disorientation come from? I think it was probably less of strenuous exercise, because Dad really was very ready physically, and he was fit, and he wasn't, struggling to keep up or whatever. I think it was more of just the environment. You're in a totally new place. It's dark out. Like, we had just gotten to this village, and there's people speaking French and Spanish and, who knows what else. There's all this noise going on, all these weird lights. And even for, we were kind of wandering around trying to figure out, where can we sleep and where can we do this or that. I think it was just a disorienting seen, and a lot less of being pushed to a limit or something like that. Because I think we did a pretty good job of taking care of ourselves so that we wouldn't get totally maxed out.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty apparent that you guys were about as prepared. I mean, and it seemed like you guys have the experience so that you knew generally what you were going to face. It's just there's that unknown factor with the Alzheimer's. I think that
Absolutely
that was probably out there. But watching the show, I mean, Travis, we just watching that, we got a lot of insight into sort of how you feel about your father and that special relationship there. I guess my question is going to be for Mark. What's it like? I mean, we got a little bit. I felt like it was a lot. The show showed a lot of Travis's sort of the way he looks up to you and the way he places such an importance on family and doing this race with you. We didn't see so much about. I mean, we saw some, but how proud are you of your son? Of your son? How much when you watch him race, do you say, man, like, that's like my legacy that I've bestowed upon him. He's been watching me, and it's got to be so cool to say, wow, like that's my son is kind of like, A, he's he could have been competitive and he wanted to do the race with you, and then B, you guys had this amazing experience together. What's it like for you out there adventure racing with your son, and how proud of him are you?
Well, I'm extremely proud of Travis for everything he's done in his life, not just the athletic stuff, but he's an amazing person. There's nobody in the world who doesn't like Travis Macy, and he does remarkable things for people. And, that's what I'm most proud of him. If we go to the athletics, Travis is way better in everything I've done, in my life. He's done a lot of them, but he does it a lot better than I ever did. He's smarter than me and stronger than me and fitter than me. And I've been watching him his whole life. I went to every game he ever played in when he was a little kid. And I could go to all the ego challenges with him as well. So, and we do have a very good, a perfect relationship as far as I'm concerned. I love him, and he's a great guy. And
what I think is amazing about that, Mark, is obviously you're dealing with Alzheimer's, and even in the interview, you can kind of tell sometimes that you're thinking of a word or whatever. But when you talk about your son, you don't delay. You don't hesitate for 1 second. Those are there. You know what I mean? I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's a beautiful thing. Travis, obviously we got a lot from you. There are some tears. We got some tears. Manly tears though, dude. I give it to you. You're allowed. I'll give it to you. You might have had some in our house too, actually. What lessons did you learn from your dad in adventure racing and outside of that that you will take on with you for your years in adventure racing and as a person in life?
Oh man, there's a lot there for sure. But some of the things that come to mind, just watching Dad go through this Alzheimer's journey and doing it together. That's something that you're in with it with your family and your friends. I just seeing Dad do this the last couple of years, like I've realized it's never too late to help someone else. I think that's been a big motivator for Dad, going to the race and trying to show people that, hey, whether it's Alzheimer's or something else, you get a diagnosis or an injury or whatever, you can still stay engaged with life and you can still live fully. And maybe that'll change or look different. The next eco challenge, Dad's not planning on racing, but I think he's going to be there. He's going to be there with the team and still be part of the team, hanging out and with the crew and that kind of stuff. So, it's just, it's never too late to help someone out and to just keep going. We've all got our challenges and, some of them are obvious. Some of them are not obvious. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, but you can, you can push through and keep on doing those things. That's Dad's always set that example. And I think my mom has set that example too. I mean, my dad and I have seen that in my mom for, decades. She had a liver transplant in 1990, and then she had a kidney transplant 10 years later, and another kidney transplant about 15 years after that. And these are all things like when you need a transplant, if you don't get one, you're going to die. And at many times the prognosis was not great. And I'm sure experts or doctors or whoever probably would have, told her not to do things, or don't do this with your life, or, don't travel or whatever. And she just stayed engaged and just, man, like here she is, very sick and raising 3 kids and 2 foster kids and just going all in. So, it's just continuing forward and keeping at it.
And I tell you, the way you talk about that, it reminds me so much of just your sport, adventure racing, right? We just talked about that.
Absolutely.
How just keep going forward. And it's almost like the like that sort of mantra kind of is pervasive throughout your family. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And
it's true, Scott, in a marathon, any running race, like, I think sometimes people like, they see something like this and they're like, oh, I'm not a real athlete unless I do the 100-mile run, or I do the 50K, or I do the eco challenge, or, whatever. I loved how Nathan Fabe said in the show, find your own world's toughest race. And man, I tell you what, like, if you're the ordinary marathoner out there going to finish at 26.2 miles, like that's a hell of a long run, and it's really hard, and you're going to have those ups and downs, and you're going to go through low patches, and that's okay,
Yeah, it's almost like I'm talking to you guys, and then it's like, oh yeah, all we only run marathons. We like. It's funny when you
road marathons are. I've done one road marathon because it's a long. I don't like running on pavement, and like I don't want to run that far on pavement, so I don't. It's hard.
It's one of the things. I was never in this athletic circle bbefore until a few years ago when I started running, and it's just one of those things like what you said about Nathan's comment. You're 1% of the whole population who does a marathon, and then all of a sudden you start hanging out with people who run marathons. You're like, all right, well, that's just how everyone runs them. And then so you do something else. You do an Ironman, you do a trail race, a 50K or whatever it may be, but then you start hanging out with those people. Then you need to do something more. It's always like that next race, that next level. But it is incredible watching you guys go out there day after day. It's a different kind of event. It's a different kind of challenge. And it was really fun to watch. I thank you both for participating in the event and for sharing your story so openly. I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with some of the same challenges that your family is. And I think probably seeing the relationship you two guys have and how you guys dealt with it is probably going to give comfort, and if not, help people along the way for their own journey. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting us. We had a great time.
You guys have been amazing. You guys have been amazing guests. It's funny. I watch it. I'm like, these guys are like the nicest guys on the show. What if they're like jerks in real life? Turns out you're not. Exactly. The show did a good job. You guys are awesome. Wonderful guests with an amazing story. Really like just an incredible story. So thank you both for your time, and thanks for coming on the show. Travis Macy and his father, Mark Macy. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mark and Travis Macy. Just a great fan. What an amazing family. What an amazing story. If you watch the show, it's really, if you haven't watched the show, watch the show. I'm telling you. World's Toughest Race, Amazon Prime. It's 9 episodes. It's worth it. And you'll see why they were so endearing to so many people. Just that storyline was incredible. And, wish them good luck in their future endeavors hopefully they get into the Patagonia race next year. I know the Stray Dogs are doing it. I don't think Mark's doing it, but Travis and his team will be doing it. And what an amazing, amazing family. And that's about it for today, folks. We got a lot on tap for the next coming weeks. We're looking for some more guests. If you know anyone, hey, shoot them my way. And remember, every day is an ordinary day unless you make it extraordinary. So get after it, guys.